Okay. So we are two after. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to the Meshery development call. Let's start with introductions. Aman, I guess this is your first call. Could you please give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, no pressure, Aman. By the way, Aman Rasa, your microphone is on, but there's no audio coming through. So just in case you're saying hi, we can't hear you. And so in case you're having audio troubles, you can always take a moment to introduce in chat. While you figure that out, assuming that you can hear us, we might ask Baumek. Baumek, have you been on the Meshery development meeting before? If not, say hi, introduce yourself.
Hi.
Nice.
Hello. Hi, guys. Am I audible?
You are.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is my first time. I've been on the website meeting earlier.
Nice. Okay. So very good. So it's favorite color, year you were born, mother's middle name, name of your first pet, any of your like password secret phrases. Just, we just want to get to know you, like, really closely.
Yeah. So I'm new to this community. My name is Baumek Jain. I'm from India. I'm 19 years old. I like to play chess, and yeah, so I'm here to learn and contribute to the community. I hope I'll have a fun time here.
Yeah, nice. That's great. Oh, thanks for that. Chess. I love it, man. What a great game. Yeah, time better spent than, say, watching cricket or something.
Let's not talk bad about cricket. Let's not talk bad about cricket.
Yeah, I'm going to get kicked off the call.
Okay, are there any more newcomers who would like to introduce themselves? Srinivas, is this your first call?
Yeah, hi Aditya, hi Lee. I'm Srinivas. Hope I'm audible.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm Srinivas. I'm joining this call from India, Bangalore. So this is my first development call in the FI community, and looking forward to learn and grow in the FI community. And this is my first open source project I'm contributing to. So gonna have fun and learn.
Okay, sounds good. I think that covers everyone. Let's get started off with the topics. Devopriya, you have the first topic and a lot of subtopics, so please take it away.
Yeah, Devopriya is frozen, and fortunately for us, not in too awkward of a way. She looks statuesque. Let me fill in for Devopriya just while her bandwidth catches up with her, which is, so we've been having for a long time, last couple of years, we've been having weekly community meetings, and we had paused those at about, well, I don't know, a couple of months ago now, because there's just so much going on and so much for all of us to do. And it's hard to make sure we've got agendas and people speaking and all these things. And anyway, we haven't really been giving, and so we should definitely have community meetings. We just need to reorganize around them, maybe have them once a month, maybe. And so we figured we'd give a couple of updates in this call that are more related to community. So briefly, yesterday, in case you missed it, there were DockerCon was happening. 2 talks were given on Meshery, specifically the new Meshery Docker extension, but which is now generally available for everyone. Somebody will probably, if you don't know where it is, somebody will probably drop a link to it. There are a couple of blogs up that kind of recap the 2 talks that happened yesterday. One of them was with HPE on an integration on how they're using Meshery to help test the integration of Spire and Istio. The other talk was on how you can use the Meshery Docker extension to take your Docker Compose apps and convert them to a Meshery app. As a Meshery app, you can then deploy that app onto Kubernetes, or you can deploy it onto a service mesh, or both. And you can visually design it using mesh map and all that. So that's what the 2 talks were about at DockerCon. So it was a big deal for Hirsch, Delon, and Aditya Chatterjee and Nitish Karthik in particular, who'd been working on that extension. Next week is KubeCon, Service Mesh Con. So we'll be announcing Meshmark at Service Mesh Con. That's been in collaboration with, with a few different individuals in the ecosystem, but largely Intel has been collaborating quite a bit on Meshmark. We'll also hopefully unveil the Service Mesh Performance Dashboard, which needs a terrible bit of work to be done between now and the next 5 days. I'll put a link to it. Dashboard, boom. And yeah, Meshmark is out there. There's open. So hey, if these topics interest anyone, there's much more ongoing work to do in each of these areas. We'll talk a little bit more about the extension later. There's a number of CNCF communities. One of them is out of Placer, which is the name of a country, I believe, in South America. I have to go look it up. They were asking for an intro to Meshery. And so we get a lot of asks for people, for community members to come and talk. And so do signal if that's you, if talking at a meetup, talking at a conference, or writing a blog post or what have you, if those things are of interest to you, there's more opportunities than we have people to do those things. So just signal. GSOC is right around the corner. I think it's like this week where we're picking people. Another LFX in term is set to start here very briefly. So there are largely two projects that are listed for those programs. These 2 here, so maybe we'll talk about those a little bit later. So from yesterday, so is Deborah Priya back? I don't want to steal all of her thunder. Okay.
Sorry, the weather here is really bad. Net is very bad today.
Yeah, and so I'll tag you in.
So I'm sure Lee talked about the various talks that we had. I missed most of it. So
yeah, so we're right here on this item. Significant.
Right. So recently we have our Docker extension page and a Docker extension form open for members who want to participate and get early access for the same. So there's been an effort. There are a lot of new forms that we have going around. We have one for MeshMap Beta and MeshMap. We have one for play.meshery, and there's an effort to make these forms uniform. So right now, I don't think this form has a role attached to it, but the other pages like that of MeshMap do have some additional details. It has an account to connect section, which we need to add to the Docker form, and that has been an effort taken up by community members. Nikhil has been working a lot. And there's a significant influx especially after DockerCon, a lot of signups for Docker extension lately. So this is pretty exciting. And Right. So next up from the websites, we have new member profiles. One is from Maxi, for Maxi. He's from HP. He recently he was one of the speakers at the talk in DockerCon representing HP. So he is going to get a member profile. And Ritika is from Intel, our upcoming talk at Service Mesh Con. She's one of the speakers there. So that's that. And next we are opening consideration for newer meshmates. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to announce meshmate of the year just yet. I'm not. So, but I'm pretty sure all of you know who that is. But let it be a surprise, and we'll get to we get to soon. So yeah, that covers all of my topics for now.
Nice. Did anybody else have anything to add about community events and happenings and things? There's a lot that goes on inside the website's meeting. Just as many people actually joining that one on Mondays. So anything else? Nice. Great. A lot of you should just, a final note, a lot of you heard me say this in the past, but just almost every name that I'm seeing on the call right now, I hope that you're taking some amount of pride or like a lot of pride in the announcement at DockerCon and the announcements at Service Mesh Con and KubeCon. Yeah, people are pretty excited. A lot of positive feedback about the work that's being done, whether it's in Meshery or SMP or the websites themselves. So actually, I'll say this, just there were 2 HPE fellows. So in HPE Speak, they've got, what do they have? They have a master, something that's IBM. Anyway, they have a distinguished engineer, they have fellows. And so kind of a VP level role for engineers. And 2 of them were looking over the work in Meshery and just kept asking so many questions. We had to schedule another meeting. So they're just really excited about what you're doing. And with that, let's talk more about what you all are doing. So Aditya, the Docker extension for Meshery.
Yep, I'll give a small demo because I hope it doesn't kill my laptop. So this is Docker Desktop. Most of you should be familiar with it. If you're not, this is how it looks. So basically, they have introduced a new section called extensions. It's a marketplace which has like 16 extensions inside it, from which you can install them. So I just installed the Meshery one. This is how our login page is. So basically, you first have to log in to get a token. Once you are authed in, it will redirect you back to the Docker Desktop page. From here, you'll be able to import your Docker Compose apps, deploy a service mesh, and after you get the message that it's been provisioned successfully, you can go into the UI. Yep. And yeah, so basically that's what the extension does. So when you install the extension, it installs a Meshery CTL binary to your local machine, and that's how you're able to access Meshery from here. So yeah, I am on a previous version, so that's why I chose M. So yeah, and from here you get to do anything and everything that you'd be able to do Meshery if you're running it on your system. Run performance tests, or yeah, like basically it covers everything. And yep, that's what the extension does. So as you guys saw, the login page was not really our next steps are to create a nice login page. This was a design that Shubhadeep had suggested for the Docker extensions page that we are thinking of incorporating inside the extension, the landing page of the extension UI. I think Shubhadeep can take it away from here and talk about his design that he made. If he's on the call, I'm not sure. Is he? Yep. Shubhadeep.
Hello.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your design? I can keep sharing.
Yeah. I can go layer 5 and then in the Meshery project.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. The last one. Okay. So this is the changes, and the last one I had recently made for the Docker extension. So can you give your thought on that? Previously, it was just card design, and the last one is like it's not a card design; it's like a timeline.
Nice. Does anybody have quick feedback? Good, because I'd love to give mine. Good. So just very briefly, and we've got a bunch of other topics. That is, if you go to the left, I think it's just nice for everyone to kind of, and you go to the left one more time, everyone to kind of, so currently, if you go to this page, it doesn't look too dissimilar from what you're seeing here. Although each of those major features, importing your composed apps, having a visual designer, supporting all of these service meshes, those are just more or less simple bulleted lists, or that's what it was before Subhadeep showed up. And so he's trying to highlight them a little bit better, call them out individually, and help give a visualization, a graphic for each one. In the first iteration here, it was a bit more like a card design, which almost all the cards on the layer 5 site are clickable, and these aren't. These are just feature descriptions. So moving on to his second design, he's de-emphasized the card and such that it doesn't necessarily indicate that it's clickable. Although, and so what I was saying is that you could take and alternate you could horizontally flip these features such that they looked more like a list of features and less like cards. That's what I meant earlier. But if you go to the third design real briefly, like this one looks, much more like there's three things. There's a description of them. One of the points of feedback that I'd given before is that you got to drop the numerics here. It's not a sequential thing. People can do these in any order that they want to. And so it is 3 features, but that's not really the point in kind of highlighting that, is it? So this design, I think, works great, that you just fill in the circle or leave an empty circle, a bullet, instead of having numbers.
Okay. So instead of numbering, we can just give a bullet inside this circle.
Yeah, or nothing. Don't emphasize it more than it already is potentially. Nice. Yeah, one thing you might consider, is if you have time and you're not doing anything else, you might have the description show and hide. So if it's just the green top level feature list item, the green thing, someone hovers, it would expand to show what's underneath. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily need to be that fancy, but
I was also thinking that, but if we do like that, maybe user might think that it's not hoverable. Then we make to user that it a hoverable car.
Totally. Yeah, I get you. There's more to say about that and how to help them discover it, but I'll curtail the conversation just to not take up too much time. So to me, it looks good. Actually, an important consideration probably is that the notion that this card format would end up going into the extension itself. And so that's pretty cool. And some of the work can be reused. As we move off of the Docker extension, I want to emphasize maybe two other things. One is that if you've ever run Meshery and you had trouble getting your adapters connected, or getting Meshery connected to Kubernetes or to Prometheus or Grafana, or if you've ever had to go through a little bit of rigmarole to get it set up, this extension is arguably, not arguably, like it's probably arguably the easiest way to deploy Meshery, because you just click install on the extension and you get all of the Meshery's adapters and Meshery server and Meshery UI and mesh map. You get if you're running Kubernetes, you get an instant connection to Kubernetes, and then hopefully we're getting a pretty much an auto deployment of the Meshery operator. So what a very quick way to deploy Meshery. Just kind of an all-in-one utility, and the fact that users of the extension, they get a simplified interface. Meshery brings like a proverbial check in the box. I guess it's a switch in the box for each service mesh. Now, there's not a lot of configuration that can be done here from this interface, but if people want to deeply configure the mesh, they can launch Meshery and go in and configure it. So all of the functionality in the extensions UI, this UI right here, is available inside of Meshery. And Meshery deviates as an extension a little bit differently than some of the other 15 or the other 15 that are in the marketplace today. Most of those are single page apps. Maybe one or two of them, if any of them are multi-page apps, they generally send you outside of Docker desktop. Whereas Nitish Karthik on the call has put in a ton of effort to make sure that Meshery's multi-page user experience can happen without even leaving Docker desktop. So there is one, there's a couple of residual items to look at there. So Nitish, if you're on, two questions for you. Do you know, there's a couple of external hyperlinks that I'm not sure if they were functional from within in Meshery's UI. So where Meshery says, that you're running this version, or here, click here to connect to Slack. Can you try clicking those? So I don't know that some of those work, and that has to do with the environment in which the extension is running. The second thing is
don't work.
I don't know if the Meshery operator is auto deploying. It might be now.
Actually, it should be now. It's the Meshery operator should be automatically deployed right now. And regarding the first point, which is that opening the links in inside when Meshery is actually opened inside a Docker desktop extension. In that case, I guess what we'll have to do is that there are certain parts in the UI we'll have to conditionally that has to be dynamic in the sense it has to know where it is running. For instance, like in this case, if it is open inside Docker desktop, then there are certain things that has to be done differently, such as opening the links in a I don't know, in a browser's new tab or something. But yeah, my point is that this has to be handled differently than how we used to handle it. And the way to do that is obviously I think you've sent a message in Slack pointing out that there is a difference between you can actually get the environment from the request that you're sending and the response that you're receiving. Yeah, user agent detection, exactly. So we can make use of that particular feature and conditionally change some parts of the UI. and make sure that it behaves properly when it's being opened inside Docker Desktop or as a native UI tab in a browser.
Okay, as we go to move on, Jared, if you're on the call, and this is a note for everyone else as well, there's no more hoops to jump through to get access to this extension. The only hoop is download the latest Docker desktop, and you're good to go from there in terms of installing the Meshery extension.
Nice. I actually just installed it.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so moving on, we have Abhi. Abhi, would you like to discuss your topic, please?
Yeah, I thought that it was the person from the topic. Yes, I'm talking. Hello. Yeah. So I'm talking about messaging framework integration with the Meshery. So since we have the messaging framework, we have a complete doc written here for the messaging framework and notification center. We want this to be integrated with the Meshery UI also. We miss a major part in Meshery UI where the notification centers are handled the way we want, but it is not right now. So there's different parts where we have got the progress, but it's not all over the UI. So that's what we need to do, and this is what this talk is telling about, like you know how we are doing the notification and how we are designing the messaging framework and notification centers and all. So we want some help here regarding integration of the already written messaging framework, backend services, GraphQL endpoints. We want those integrations with the help of uh, React. I have written somewhere, like, yeah, these are the steps that we need to take forward to integrate it completely with the UI. We have got the suggestions from various people, Nitish and all, how we should be going forward with the UI, and this is what I have written here to give you the context, like how we can possibly achieve it. So that's what it is like. Here is the notification management design spec. So you all can have a look at it. I'm just sending it in the chat.
Great. So yeah, this ends up being a significant feature theme in what will be the upcoming Meshery release to be worked on, the v0.7 release. It's really important for users that are asking Meshery as a piece of management software to perform operations on their infrastructure. It's really important that their confidence is inspired when they see details of those operations happening. They need a lot of feedback. They need to know that if they requested that a service mesh be provisioned or reconfigured, or that operation not only has been received, because they get a notification like that today, and they get a notification almost all the time when that operation is done. They don't get a lot of details necessarily about what was done or where to go see the new app that was provisioned. And they definitely don't get anything in the middle. That is a lot to ask of users. You're leaning into, you're asking for their faith, like a great deal of faith from them, that the operation is proceeding as planned, doing what it was supposed to do, that they should wait 5 more minutes before it's done. So that's in part why this is such a long spec. It might be slightly over-engineered is maybe the wrong word, but the framework is to be used for error notifications. Like when an error occurs, to give someone an, almost all the Meshery errors now that occur have an error code, whether that's sourced from an adapter, from an operator, from Meshery server, and then details about that error specifically. And so there's a framework and a messaging spec. We're using cloud events as our spec for our format, for what the message format, which will hopefully help promote integration with other systems. But there's no, what Abhi is largely calling for is, well, it is for operational messages, not just error notifications to come through with details, but like this whole other class of notifications. So.
Yes. So we do get some success and error notifications. But since actually the if you see here, this diagram. So we have different publishers that publishes different notification and infos, and we can kind of catch those and send it to the UI, and we are doing it at most of the time. But we are not able to just reflect it to the UI, so there's no point. It doesn't make a lot of difference then. So that's what we want to do with the efforts in that direction. So yeah, and as discussed, we are thinking to create a central store for managing notifications for in the UI, and take a the slice of the store to manage all the notifications and keep track of those. But of course, these things are subject to change, and if any of you have a better context or better suggestions, then you're mostly welcome to add yours or give it right now or anytime in the future.
Any suggestions, guys?
There's a few folks that have reached out asking about this. I'll try to go point them Abhi's way.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might have missed this, but so from what I know right now, we do have notifications for, let's say, your service mesh is provisioned successfully or something went wrong in provisioning. Where does this fit in that?
Yeah, Abhi, I don't know if you want.
Yeah. So
okay, so yeah, Abhishek,
yes,
you go ahead.
No.
Yeah, so currently all we have is just 200 response along with that line, which does not say much about what happened. It's not very it's not very detailed, and it's just an API response. What we are talking about here is much more dynamic in nature. It involves message queues, and also it can be thought of as a real-time messaging framework. And what we currently have is not a real-time messaging framework, but messages as the API response of your action that you just performed. So what we have right now is kind of good enough, but for example, in pattern engine, we have a lot of stages that your designs go through just before they get provisioned. So we need more dynamic we need to be more dynamic in a way to tell user at what stage you are in, and so on and so forth. And if there is an error, we can be more detailed, and we have the data at the backend. It's just that the API we cannot wrap everything in an API response, and this spec makes much more sense to basically to talk about these things in terms of events is wherever when you have such a complex microservice architecture, it makes sense to talk about things as events and not as just a 200 API response with the single line. So that's what we have right now. So if that answers the question.
Yeah. So from what I know right now, we just have like a HTTP connection that just persists and it just keeps writing to the buffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, do we have devised have you made any progress in the direction of making any event broadcaster or publisher, any type of something similar?
There used to be a spec earlier, but I don't. Barik was working on it, but I don't think we took that thing because we had different priorities. So we kind of halted on it. So yeah, to answer the question short, no, we haven't progressed much in that direction.
So I thought like there is some backend progress, we need some UI progress too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyone else? Anything you guys would like to say about this?
I'll drop a demo of an example of what we're looking for in the chat, a recording.
Okay. Thanks, Abhi. Moving on, Ashish, could you talk about the multi-cluster support?
Your mic, you're on mute, Ashish. Yeah, hello. Yeah, actually, yes, sorry for that. Yeah, so am I audible now?
Yep, you are.
Okay, so a while back PR got merged regarding the multi-cluster support. So now we support connecting to multiple clusters at once, and there was some kind of, you can say, tailoring around that PR that was pending, and we are almost there. So by saying that we are almost there is what I mean is the experience that you get while dealing with multiple clusters is starting to feel smooth. For example, right now I have two clusters. This kind clusters and this minikube cluster, and right now I'm talking to my minikube cluster, and in my minikube cluster I have nothing installed. In my kind cluster I have my Istio and Linkerd control plane, so you don't see anything here in the minikube cluster. I can go and switch my cluster to kind cluster, and if I come back to the dashboard, now I see my Istio control plane and my Linkerd control plane, and so is the case with mesh map. So we have a mesh map visualizer that visualizes your whole cluster. We are greedily getting data from all of your connected clusters. So in our database, all of your connected clusters, in this case it is kind and minikube, we have data from both these clusters. And for example, right now I'm connected to my kind cluster. So if I can look at any namespace, for example, I'll see here. Okay, my system is a little slow right now because a lot of things are going on. So yeah, I see a bunch of things in my Linkerd namespace. So basically the same thing that you saw on the dashboard, that support is also added in the mesh map. So if I will go back and switch my cluster to minikube, I'll not see those things on the visualizer. So yeah, so and there are some gradual steps needed to feel more multi-cluster. For example, this thing that you are seeing right now, it has to be much more dynamic in nature. So for example, right now I have to if I have to apply an operation, I have to go back in the settings page, and I'm switching context manually from here. So this feature of switching the context should also be available here. And basically this allows us to talk to one cluster. And also for example, we have designs, and when you deploy a design right now, it is deployed to whichever cluster is ticked over here. So if I so minikube is ticked over here. So if I'll click deploy, this design would be deployed in my minikube cluster. So a little bit
more consideration is to be given here, such that if I want, I can choose more than one cluster. If I select these two, and if I click deploy, then, and we have the support in backend, we just need to when we click on deploy, we send a request /api/pattern/deploy endpoint. And when you don't give any query parameter inside of the query parameter, when you don't give the context IDs that you can extract from the endpoint, from this particular endpoint, from /API/system/Kubernetes/contexts. So here you can see I have a Minikube cluster and I have my kind cluster. So from here, if you take this ID and you pass it in a query parameter and give it to the backend, we already have the feature in backend that will deploy this particular design in all the context that you passed in the query parameter. So that thing is needed on the UI. Other than that, viewing a cluster is now much more dynamic in terms of the multi-cluster support. So yeah, this PR is yet to be merged here, which helps us to see on the dashboard data from whichever cluster that we're connected to. And if you but still if so just to give you an idea, how we are doing it is, whenever you connect to a cluster, we deploy our operator, and the operator deploys mesh sync and a broker. The mesh sync is a dumb machine that does one thing and it is very good at it, and that thing is to it uses informers to take data from your Kube API server, and then dump it onto the NATS broker, and that broker dumps data to the Meshery server. So Meshery server and the mesh sync both are clients which are publishing and subscribing to that broker. So whenever you connect to any cluster, we deploy a broker there, and that broker stays there. So if you're connected to 10 clusters, we are all the time getting data from all of your clusters, so that we can do basically we have a lot of data, so we can do into some interesting things there. So yeah, so that's it in this particular PR that I was going to demo. Does anyone have any questions regarding this thing?
You may have said this, Ashish, but really quickly, the Minikube being reduced in its opacity, is that indicative of it not being, what is that indicative of?
Okay, so currently it is indicative of the fact that if you do not in all of your operations, so initially Meshery used to support single cluster. So in all of your operations, when you do not pass the query parameter, the context ID and all, the default, what is the default behavior? So the default, this is your default context. So whenever you apply an operation and you don't explicitly specify that I want to perform this thing in this context, this is your default context. So Minikube is there, but at one time you can have one default context, and that default context is also in this case known as current context. So this is your current context, and if I switch back to this, blurring just means that if you what you're seeing on here is from here, and
Okay.
this is one thing, and the second thing is what I described.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions?
So the context switching from the nav bar is something that we need to get it done. It's not functional properly. Not fully, it's not fully functional, right?
Yeah, right now it's not.
Sure.
So from the navbar, we would just be able to switch context, right? So
Yeah,
there is no need to have a checkbox, because
yeah,
it would be a context switcher.
Actually, no, not really, because this checkbox is indicative of the fact that you can select all, you can select one, you can select two, you can select any n out of m out of n clusters and apply an operation, and it would be applied in those m out of n clusters. So we don't want to enforce the idea is that we do one thing at a time. It's just that one is your default behavior. So if you don't specifically ask us to do something across 4 clusters, you have this one connected cluster, one current context, and we would do that there. And but if you want us to if you want to tell us that, hey, apply it in 4 clusters, what is the way to tell us? And this is the way to tell us the clusters that you check. And right now we're not listening to the user. Even if they say check these 2 clusters and they deploy something, we don't respect it right now. All we need to do is whatever is selected here, just include the context ID of this particular cluster in the query parameter while sending the request, and it would be respected by the backend, this particular ID.
And I want to add one more thing, like currently this context switching and getting data from different brokers doesn't work on Mac, because like on Mac, if you want to use Docker Desktop on Minikube, then
Wait. That's terrible. Please do not say it like that. That is not true. It totally works on Mac. That is a totally misleading statement. It completely works on Mac unless you've deployed, and on any operating system, if you've deployed 2 clusters that are overlapping and using and sharing a port, like it's got nothing to do with Mac.
Sorry. Yeah, I want to talk about the port overriding problem. Like if your 2 clusters are listening on the same port, then like there is a small problem, which basically depends upon your system. Like you need to make sure that your networking is set up properly, and for that you can use external load balancer, which come like Metal LLB for kind.
Yeah, so what Pranav described was a networking issue that he was getting while connecting to both Docker Desktop and Minikube, because there was some kind of port overriding going on there, and he had a very poor choice of words. So blame him for that. We have a working thing, so our thing works. Okay.
Just one more suggestion I wanted to add on, like for the context switching which we have on navbar and the one which we have on settings page, shouldn't both of them should have the same component? Like currently this one says that we can connect to more than 1 cluster, but that in the settings we say that we can just connect to 1.
Okay, so just to give a feel for it, the checkbox doesn't say that you are connected to this thing. The checkbox says that the operation that you will apply now will be applied on these clusters, and this is kind of a orthogonal thing that, hey, this is your default thing. So what you are seeing on the dashboard is from here. What you will see on visualizer is in a single cluster mode, in a quote unquote single cluster mode in visualizer. We have multi-cluster and single cluster modes. So in a single cluster mode in visualizer, you will get data from a single cluster, and that single cluster is, well, this one. So this checkbox is indicative of where we will apply our operations like pattern deploy, filter, and application and all that. And what I'm talking about by switching context is, I mean, you can have it on right side, left side. I'm very bad at UX, so you can determine what kind of feel you want for that. But it should just be indicative of the fact that whatever you are seeing here is from this thing. Yeah, that's all. That's it.
Okay, assuming that no one else has anything else to say. Anyone? Okay, so let's move. Thanks, Ashish, for that demo. Moving on, we have Abhi again with the end-to-end tests on Meshery UI.
Yeah. Yes, so we do require some end-to-end testing efforts in the direction of Meshery UI. Actually, we are lacking a lot of test coverage. It's around, you can see the stats here. So 17% only. If I'm not wrong, yeah. So we do require a lot of tests, and this is an effort towards Meshery life cycle UI test. And I have pushed some latest changes fixing the life cycle management UI problems. So all these things are included here. Other than that, we do want to have some people on board for writing the Meshery end-to-end test. It is quite very simple to learn Cypress, and to get the things working, we just need some heads up to do it. As you can see on the right hand side, I have just checked the this life cycle spec test, and all the 5 tests are passing right now. So we do have some basic tests for it. So I think we can merge this PR after I add one more commit, which is the final commit, and then we can get the progress from there so that we have something foundational for now and can be more specific with time.
Guys, any comments?
Yeah, so if any one of you have any interest towards end-to-end tests and how these things are done, so contact anyone in the Meshery test channel, which is I think Meshery CI channel, where we manage and discuss all the test related things. So yeah.
Yeah, we also have a Cypress testing channel that you guys can join.
Yes.
Ask your questions
Yeah, I
there
just
as well.
forget. Sure.
Yep.
We had made.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Abhi. Moving on, we have Aman or Subhadi talking about a Meshery lab not working. Would any of you guys talk about this, please?
Yash.
Okay.
Just I think that's the topic that you're on, right? So I'm just saying his name out loud in case Yash.
Yash. This is it.
I don't know anything about this.
Oh, that's bad. Then we probably aren't. Wait. I'm sorry. Wait, are you on the
Yeah,
online?
you're. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
totally
on.
off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, assuming that they're not here, moving on. Pranav, the final review on the static boards.
Yeah. So my PR was about getting back the static boards, which we lost in one of the older PRs. So like I've worked through all this. Basically, if you don't know this performance, whenever we run a performance test, then like Meshery has the capability of looking through the environment in which the test was performed, and based on that, it collects information of the cluster, like the CPU available, CPU allocated, memory allocation, architecture, OS, and other things. So this is very crucial to the test which one runs, and it can help them to understand their performance in much more better way. So my PR was about making sure that their results get back on track. So initially, like the UI was not that good, so I improved on based on all the suggestions I got. So finally, it looks like this. We have two different buttons, one for chart and the other one for node details. For example, if we go to chart, then we have a link over here which gives the corresponding detail, through which we can directly go to the node details of the corresponding chart. So if I click here, it will display the results of the node details. Like I will get the CPU, memory. Earlier it was not in good. So I converted it into gigabits. Earlier it was in KB bits, and then I improved. I changed the node properties as well, because earlier we were not fetching the right property for it. So like I feel like it's good to merge now. Like anybody wants me to change anything else?
Just to not go a level deeper, like paper on paper or modal on, that you can make the.
No, we are not going on model. I closed another model and then a new model is opened up. When I switch over, yeah.
Okay, got you. But rather the table that's inside of that other modal is ideally is flattened, like that. If the chart is on the modal itself, like so too is the table, and it looks better. Well, I don't know if it looks better if it is or not. It doesn't. It also, the navigation that you have here, you have to take it out. Click here for performance graph versus the other one. It's not that the two shouldn't be linked. It's that we don't have that style navigation anywhere else, and so the UX there is totally new to people, and they'll get
Actually,
lost on.
Joe Tellerco told me to add that. I can.
Yeah, no, it's a good. They're linked, and it's a good It's just the user flow. It's the UX paradigm being used. Click here for it. No. First of all, never ever say click here. Otherwise, that just means I have a poop UI. There's poop all over my UI. You obviously don't know what to do. Let me have you read it out to have it. No. And so just wipe the poop off. And then what we do is, nope, you can have a multi-tab. I'd said it like 3 or 4 times. You can have multi-tabs. That would work, right? As a thing, as a switch between the two. Or for now, if you don't have something like that, you just leave it out and get to Joe's comment. Subsequently, it's also while you're in here, like this is great. Like hopefully Subradip or others might express opinion about the restyling of the chart and the data around it. It's just needs some better presentation. It's kind of just free floating, and there's a title that and it's got nothing to do with that's not a reflection of any of Pranav's work, but just a reflection of a lack of visual design put into history. We've been challenged in this way for a couple of years now.
A great design idea which I can propose is like you can add a arrow button and saying node details on the right hand, and when you click on it, it will just slide it to the node details, and and when it's on the node details, an arrow on the left hand side, so that it's interchangeable and it would look great, I guess.
Okay. You mean like it should flip around like a card to another?
Yeah,
the sliding animation, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, for the model, you could use elevation 0 to don't have to not get the feel of something is elevated. So
Okay.
on the table itself, MEI provides this for that.
I'll override those CSS. Yeah. Thank you. Aditya, you're muted.
Thank you, Pranav. So yeah, so we have a bunch of topics left, but we are at the top of the hour. So I guess I think we can do the docs auto generation feature, and then we can do the other topics for next week's call. Aditya, would you like to do a quick final review for your PR?
Yeah, okay, sure. I'm not sharing my screen though, but
Okay.
yeah, I will send the link so that it would be easier for others to review. So this is the PR link and the docs preview link in which the command reference section is being generated. So update from the last week is the formatting is now fixed, and yeah, this is the PR. And if the preview link is open to the chat, you would see a section called as the CLI command reference section, in which you can actually view the table of the Meshery CTL commands and its description, usage. The whole documentation will be there. And the update from the last week is the formatting was a bit quirky, and so I had to fix it. And yep, the formatting is now stable and it's almost complete. Not this one. Not this one though. The overview. You would have a section called as the CLI reference section at the last.
Here?
No, not that one. Okay, go to the home page. I will navigate to. There will be a last. Either way. Yep, go to last guides, under the guides, down. Yep,
This
there
one?
is a reference command reference.
Yep.
Yep,
Right.
that is one.
Sorry.
Yep, that's
and
the one.
these are hyperlinked now. Okay.
Yep, there's a hyperlink. And if if a user just clicks into the command, then the elaborate page of the command will be displayed, and this has been reformatted now. So this is the new update which I did as a continuation from last week, and this is the final change. Yep, that's it. Any feedback from this, guys or folks?
This looks good. Any other feedback? Anyone else want to say anything? Okay, I guess not. So, so we are good to merge here, right?
Yeah, after a review from the team, it will be good to merge.
Okay, sounds good. So, so since we're already 3 after, sorry guys, we couldn't get to your topics. We'll discuss them first thing on the Meshery Dev call next week. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow or the day after. So, bye guys. Thank you all for joining.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.